The Haunting of Hill House, released in 2018, reimagines Shirley Jackson's classic haunted house story as a deeply personal family drama. Rather than focusing solely on ghosts and scares, the series unfolds as a slow-burn exploration of childhood trauma, grief, and the long shadow those experiences cast onto adulthood. Blending gothic horror with intimate character study, Hill House uses the structure of episodic television to examine how each member of the Crane family is haunted in their own way. In this first part of a two-part episode, we'll focus on episode 1 through 5, laying the foundation of the family's history, introducing the central mysteries, and examining how denial, anger, and fractured memory shape the horror at the heart of the house.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of So You Like Horror podcast. And for this episode, if you were here before last episode, you probably know what the theme is. You probably even know what the episode is if you've been paying attention. So our theme this year is going to be horror television. And the first episode that we're going to be doing for this horror television theme is going to actually be The Haunting of Hill House. And I'm excited about this one because it's a series that I am very, very, very passionate about, and I love it a whole bunch. But I'm also excited because I could sit down with my homie all the way from the other side of the country, Mr. Manuel, and his lovely wife, Miss Alicia. How y'all doing? And welcome to the podcast again. What's up, y'all?
What's up, man?
And I have a bunch of notes here. Emmanuel and I were kind of texting back and forth on how to handle these notes. Then he saw the notes and was like, look, man.
The good thing is that I did see the notes, and looking at them was the extent of everything. That was it. I saw them. So I know they exist, and we're going to do what we do. And we're just going to shoot from the hip here.
He was like, look, I see that you have notes. I'm not reading those. There's too many words.
And to be honest, I was kind of like really pressing you for the notes so you could do them, just so I wouldn't read them. I just wanted to give you the work. I was like, dude, I won't do this podcast if I don't get those notes, but I won't read them.
I get really, really like hung up on like research and notes and stuff. So then when it comes time, I have all this information and Liz like, I've looked at this so much, I don't actually want to read them now. So we're just going to kind of freestyle, but I'm going to use the notes. We are going to talk. I'm going to go over each episode here because it's The Haunting of Hill House is a series on Netflix. For those of you who don't know, it came out in 2018 and it's 10 episodes. And what I'm going to try to do is go through each episode kind of briefly. We're not going to spend an extensive time. You know, I'm not going to give you like 15 minutes on each episode. That's going to be ridiculous. Yeah, but I'm going to kind of give you an overview.
And my understanding is it's not like a recap of each episode. It's more like a general feel for that episode.
Yeah. Like, you know, folks who can give you a full breakdown of each episode, kudos to them. I can't. I don't have the attention span for it, number one. And number two, I don't think I'm a good storyteller in that regard. So I'm going to read what I got here in my notes, and we're going to have a discussion after each episode point and kind of really dig into the heart of these characters. So in this episode, you know, we're going to talk about The Haunting of Hill House and pointing out, you know, the literary roots, you know, because it's a book that actually was written by Shirley Jackson. And we're going to talk about the foundational work of the psychological horror, which kind of reshaped how haunted houses functioned as emotional spaces rather than simple scare machines. You know, like this series, this book, even the movies that were based off of the book, all kind of do different things. And the show itself, like we kind of joked about a little bit beforehand, it's kind of a family drama with horror as the backdrop. So boom, I hit it, son.
You hit it. I was excited for you. Hold on. I started hearing my ears perked up. I was like, I think he's gonna drop the line.
Dude, I've been saying that every time I talk to anyone about it. That's the first thing I say. Oh, it's a family drama with horror as the backdrop, and they're like, "Oh my god, you're so right." I was like, "You guys think I'm right?"
No, it is. It's eloquent and it's brevity. It's exactly that. It's exactly that. I think it's. You know me. I do like horror, but only to an extent. Like I'm not like I gotta watch everything horror that comes out. So whenever I do this show with you, I love getting back into it, digging into it, looking at something that I've probably seen once with my wife because she's the horror fan, with open eyes. And this one was one that I was like, oh, I do like this one. Like I've liked this show since it came out. So it's a little bit different where like if we watch something else that's horror, like I'll watch it with her, like the Conjurings or all those other things. I'll watch those, but it's more like I just enjoy it for its sake, as opposed to this one where like right now we just finished watching it for the second time for me. I'm not sure how many times she's watched it.
More, like
More?
probably 4 or 5.
Okay, there you go.
But you know why? I think it's because you're like I like real scary stuff, and we talked about last time we were on this together. Like I like the ghosts, I like the supernatural, I like the weird, the orbs, and he's like, that's ridiculous. But this one, it's like the whole show is about the human condition, and honestly, that's the scariest thing that's real.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff, the secrets, the substance, the not being able to cope with stuff. And I feel like that's why, I don't know, maybe that's why you appreciate it, because you like things that are real.
I like it because I feel like genuinely, if no ghosts existed, the story remained the same. It's just messed up people doing messed up things and coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think about that when you and I first did the Event Horizon episode. And you're like, you're not really a horror guy. And, the things that we've discussed in the realm of horror, you and I, on many different episodes, one thing that's always stood out to me is that you do like horror, but there's kind of a sub note to it. Like you said, if you take away the horror element from this series, it's still the family doing messed up stuff. It's a family drama, still the same. You look at Event Horizon, you take away the scary stuff from it, it's still a crazy sci-fi film. You take, so when we look at something like Friday the 13th, because I always say when people say they don't like horror, the first thing they think of is a slasher. They always think about Jason, Freddy, Michael, Chucky, all these different things. And the difference being is like those horror elements are essential to that movie. Whereas like a lot of things that you and I have talked about, the story is essential and horror just happens to be part of the ride. So it's almost like you like horror, but it has to be cloaked with something else.
Definitely. I think family drama is a perfect backdrop for horror. I think that like Space, Odyssey is a perfect backdrop to add some horror to it. I think those are the ones I like the most, or at least the ones that call me the most. And I think ultimately, whenever you say, hey, would you watch this and let's do a show about it, a good example of a horror movie would be when we did Evil Dead Rising.
Mm-hmm.
That was about as horror as it gets. And let me tell you, getting into that, like I guess I allow myself to get into things. If I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna go in all full gas. I was into that movie and I was terrified. Like that movie was creepy as hell to me, and it wasn't like the scariest thing I've seen, but I was just so into it at the moment where like I don't know, like I feel like if I watched it again with someone else, it wouldn't be the same feeling. But in that moment, I was definitely in it. With this one, with The Haunting of Hill House, I was in it before anything. Like I would be willing to watch it again next year, even if I'm not going to do a podcast for it. It's just that good. It's just a standalone good show.
I'm surprised he didn't get into it with me the first time, but I think he would appreciate that, because that one reminds me so much of that other show that you like that I didn't get into. With what is it? Succession. Yeah, it's like that, but with horror, or
Succession with horror is definitely going to be something that makes me want to watch it.
Yeah.
Like I always think about these different things when it comes to watching a series, right? Especially like Mike Flanagan did this, he did Midnight Mass, he did Fall of the House of Usher, all shows that are going to be covered this year in the theme. And something that he's done with these shows, when I look at the other shows that are going to be listed throughout the year, his stand out. They stand out because it goes beyond horror. It goes into this realm of, again, of family, community. Like when you look at Midnight Mass, you're looking at a small island community. When you look at Fall of the House of Usher, family. You're looking at Haunted of Hill House, family. You're looking at Haunted of Bly Manor, which did not win the vote, but it's one of his works, and same deal, family, or family, community, things like that. So it makes it a little easier, I feel like, to kind of categorize it and talk about it, because there's so many. It's easier, but it's also difficult because there's so much to go over.
Right.
As we go through it, and I did mention the Haunting. There are two, actually, 1963 and 1999. I remember the one in 99. I remember, I believe I had Catherine Zeta-Jones in it, and Darkman, what's his name? Liam Neeson. And I remember when that came out in theaters, it was like, for whatever reason, we didn't get out to see it. And I was like, well, I'll catch up to it. And I never watched it until many years later. But then I found out, as you kind of connect the dots, Scary Movie 2 was also based off of, a big core of it was the Haunting and the Crane family and all this stuff. And you find out it's, again, coming from Shirley Jackson's work. And then you get this series that kind of gets dealt with a little bit differently. As Mike Flanagan reimagines the story for Netflix, shifting emphasis from a single haunted location. I don't know why I said location that way. The location to a fractured family, and it takes place over decades. Versus like, this is like a night or a weekend or whatever. And the central question that comes up early is this series really a ghost story, or, like I said, a family drama? Is it something about grief? Is it something about how loss reshapes identity? So from the lens of the Crane family, the kids, the dad, even, in this matter, they're all introduced not just as characters, but also as embodiments of the 5 stages of grief.
That's what I thought.
In my notes, you're going to actually see that they're all kind of listed as a different stage, but then throughout, when you really look at it, all of them are all of the stages, really, or multiple stages at least. So each of them cope differently. Each of them carry Hill House with them, long after they left, for one reason or the other. So I guess my question is Hill House more effective as a horror series or as a family tragedy? Or does it even matter?
Well, I think it doesn't matter, because I don't think that horror is really a thing like that. I think like even a slasher is a slasher horror film. So like there is no such thing as just plain horror, in my opinion, right? Like horror is always something that's like added to something else. So there's a story and there's a horror element to it. There's nothing that can possibly, in my mind, I can't think of a movie that's been all horror. Even the movie I mentioned that was more of a horror film, right? It's still a story about like something. So there's always a story there. And I think that to say it's more of a drama or more of this, I don't think it matters. I think it's almost like horror in and of itself will always be like,
it's subjective. Like that, I think, because what's horrible to you, that's what it centers around, right? Like what's horrible. So for me, I think the scariest thing I could probably ever have to deal with, or the thought that I'm dealing with, is the loss of a child. So when you now have a movie of that's going to be a horror to me. You know what I mean? Whereas there's other people that maybe like the scariest thing they could think about is like drowning. Well, now you're going to get something like, remember that movie where those people got left out that's based on a true story in the ocean?
Open water.
open water.
Yeah.
Like that one, like because you put yourself in that place, and then it's like, oh my god, that's a horror. So I think depending on what
and we've talked about
feel
this,
you don't want to deal with, or you can't stand the thought of dealing with.
And
scary.
So Dante and I have talked about this, where we also have talked about how like non-horror horror, like so it's like horror doesn't have to have just one shape. I think when you're messing with people's fears, I think that's what horror is ultimately. So when you're messing with the family drama and you're talking about like the kind of things that they talk about, whether it's like an actual physical ghost that you're seeing, what you're also kind of seeing, especially in the early episodes, are like a kid's natural fear of darkness or of some noise in the dark or something like that. So that's horror as well as a real ghost. It doesn't matter. It's still playing on the same part of your mind that like remembers being scared of something as a kid.
Yeah, like whenever I think about horror, like Alicia said, it's subjective. I say to people that The Good Son is terrifying. And I have friends who don't have children. They're like, whatever. And I'm like, if you have a kid, that movie's fucking terrifying. And let me tell you, like, if it puts you in a tough spot, because when you look at those parents and they're in denial, but they know that Kevin McAllister killed the youngest child, drowned them over a fucking rubber ducky. And now this kid is a fucking monster. And now Frodo lives in your house and is trying to kill Frodo.
Kevin? Who would you say, Frodo or Kevin?
I mean, it's tough because if you don't say Frodo, you don't get Lord of the Rings, and we've already had Home Alone by this point.
It was like 12 Home Alone. We could have done it less.
Yeah, I mean, son, you got to drop. We don't need another Home Alone. Like we got the best Christmas movie out of you already. Now we gotta let this little dude walk. You know, like Kevin fell so Frodo could walk. All right.
Kevin fell so Frodo could walk.
That's the tagline. People are gonna like, yo, what the fuck are we listening to?
Right.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna again try to give like an episode by episode breakdown, not like a full recap because I'm just not that guy, but we're gonna have some talking points here. Episode 1 is titled Stephen Sees a Ghost. So Stephen being the eldest Crane child. Some of the core focuses of this episode, we get introduced to the Crane family, the past and present versions. Because the movie or not movie, but the show is kind of not linear in time. It jumps all over the place, and I actually really like storytelling like that. You get a good flesh out of the characters. Also, another core focus is Stephen being played as the rational skeptic and kind of an unreliable narrator of the family's tale. And we get an establishment of Hill House as a living, observing presence. So, as the opening of the show kind of sets up, it opens up with Hugh, the dad. He's talking to young Stephen about ghosts, and he's explaining that sometimes they're real and sometimes they're just memories, which immediately frames the series around the central tension between the paranormal and the psychological. So the Crane family, they just moved into Hill House, and the idea was that they're going to renovate and then sell it. So, you get kind of, all right, this looks like, again, kind of a family. When I see this, I kind of think about The Conjuring, family moving into a new home, even Amityville, so kind of
Amityville is the one that comes to mind. Yeah, I definitely like, you think they're going to move in and it's all going to happen and they're going to leave.
Yeah. Like you get all the earmarks already. So it's like, okay, we got this. It's cool. So you're introduced to Stephen, who's the oldest, Shirley, she's next in birth order, Theo, Luke, and Nell. And Luke and Nell are twins. They're the youngest. And even you get kind of this explanation later on in the episode titled Eulogy, where Luke explains that he was older by, so many minutes. He always kind of, held it over her head.
90 seconds.
Yeah, so twin stuff, the twin thing as they call it, I guess. Well, that's not the twin thing, that's something else. But as each of them begin to experience something unsettling inside the house, you kind of get this understanding of each of the kids, each of the parents, or both of the parents, and right away the show kind of makes it very clear that it's not your typical haunted house story built on jump scares and nonsense like that.
Right.
It blends family drama with gothic horror, setting the tone for a series that's less about what's lurking in the dark and more about how trauma, memory, and fear can linger long after you think you've gotten away from it. So already you kind of get this introduction where you feel like this is going to be a little bit more than just like boom,
Yeah.
like
You're
ghosts.
thinking slow. Yeah, you instantly get slow burn vibes instead of slasher vibes for sure, or jump vibes.
Yes. And the slow burn is kind of important here because again, you're dealing with a story that's taken place over decades. So you have to have the slow burn because if you try to just jump right into it, you burn yourself out by episode 4 and there's no magic. The slow burn is so instrumental to this.
Kind
So
of similar to it, where like it takes a while to get to where you're getting, and even then there's a like whole second part to it. Like it as a movie, like the 2-parter, at least the original one.
Yeah. Like part of the slow burn with this too is each episode, for the most part, kind of focuses on a different family member. Again, episode 1 being Steven sees the ghost, so we're gonna get our introduction mainly to Steven, like on surface. So the story is going to be framed through Steven's point of view as an adult. He's grown up and he becomes a best-selling author. And his best-selling story is actually The Haunting of Hill House, which is about their experiences there. And he profits from writing about his family's experience there. And ironically enough, for a guy who's writing ghost stories, he doesn't actually believe in ghosts. He thinks of it
hypocrisy there.
Yeah, like he thinks of it as like trauma and more importantly mental illness, because that's a big part throughout this story is the mental illness aspect that he plays up more than anything, and that becomes instrumental in his marriage falling apart. As that gets discussed later on. But his siblings, well, really Shirley, resent him for profiting off the pain. Everyone else is kind of like, whatever, but Shirley is really like, and we'll
I think we got to get that elephant out of the room here. Shirley is at least like
the hardest character to like.
Everything about her, like if you could just like make everyone in the world watch this, and then whoever says Shirley's their favorite character, I could easily not talk to those people the rest of my life. Like those are the ones I enjoy.
Yeah, like if one of the things I always do with people is like, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle? And it gives me a good idea who you are. Like I should start saying, who's your favorite Crane child?
Crane, yeah.
If you say Shirley, I'm just like, all right, we're done here.
Yeah. We're like, oh, you're one of them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're her.
Yeah.
So yeah, but like with Shirley, she's actually kind of the one that kind of drives a lot of attention. And even when you think about like all the family drama that goes on, people being kind of, well, like, when I say people, it's more so Shirley, but like, the disgruntledness with Steven over the writing and everything, Luke going into rehab, Nell, having her night terrors, Theo being very shut off, Dad being kind of isolated. When you kind of look at it, and everybody has their own thing, but like Shirley, she's kind of this being that kind of is meant to hold the family together in kind of a broken way, where it's like I don't know how to describe it, but like she's there, but she's kind of the catalyst.
Yeah, I hear where you're going.
She's like the disciplinarian. It seems like she's the one that took it upon herself to be I'm the most put together, so I have to
self-righteous.
That's like I have to point out when everyone's effing up, kind of thing.
Yeah. And to be fair, she's also probably maybe second to obviously after the book deal, right? But she was the most put together as far as success wise. She had it together. She had it together first, and I think part of that is like because she had it together first, she probably held them kind of together in general because she was paying for her brother's rehab. She was the one who took her sister in. You know, she was probably helping older brother, or if older brother wasn't there, then she was holding the family together where it should have been his job, being the eldest, right? So she held a lot of that tension, and I think she never got over it. And I think she did it kind of like almost like her penance and not really like her pleasure. Where some people and families, you could see their dynamic is they're the glue, and they live for it. They love it. It happens naturally. For her, it wasn't natural.
It was an obligation.
It was an obligation, yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Stephen not really being there. It was kind of like she was forced into it. And you kind of see some of those beats though when she's younger though too. Because even when they're younger, Stephen, he's there, but he's not there. He's reluctantly there. He wants to help Dad with the house.
Yeah.
You know, he's there with Luke in the tree house. You know, he's the big brother, you know, during the storm, you know, looking out. But Shirley's also very, very like taking them, you know, under her wing and really kind of, you know, looking out for folks too. So it's kind of a 1A, 1B type thing there.
Yeah.
But she kind of takes this now as more of a like, you know, it's like you don't want this person being in charge of something because they're gonna like basically kind of always hang it over your head later on. Where Stephen probably wouldn't. He would, you know, do it, but it's like, look, I'm not. And I guess I can, you know, kind of put myself in that comparison where it's like, I don't want to be the leader. I'll lead, but I don't want to lead. And you know, as being the, you know, the oldest of four, I guess I have been put in that spot of some sort. And also, not for nothing, like part of why I wanted to do this episode with you, Manuel, like, and I joke about it, I was like, I want to do it with my actual birth brother at first. I was like, let's talk about a family drama horror movie with family. And I was like, you know what? How about I go talk to Manuel, and we have, you know, kind of a similar history, you know, in foster care. It's like, let's have two guys who are foster kids talk about a family drama. Like,
you know, it felt good. It felt like, hey, so maybe foster care wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Looking at this is like, sheesh, I dodged a bullet.
No, it's interesting because I think well, for me, at least touching on the foster care part, I do think I missed a lot of that dynamic as far as like being the eldest and being the leader, or being the middle child and having that stigma, or being the baby and being the favorite. Like, I really didn't get that because of foster care. So my experience was different. But I do think that seeing family dynamics didn't take away from my understanding of those roles. Because whenever I was with a different family, I got to see what was already established. And it's almost one of those things where, like, Hill House relates to so many people, I think, because the dynamics within their family are very natural dynamics. Like, everyone knows, oh yeah, I get that. The baby's the fuck up. Look, but no, everyone loves them anyways, right? Or this guy's invisible. The older brother left and he's invisible. He never really cared. He just wanted to do his own life. And like, so these dynamics are things that I caught on with the families I was with. Like, these dynamics are like atypical dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not so far away where you couldn't see this as a very real perspective from your family or someone else's family, just because it hits so well on what's established as a normal traditional family. I'm sure not everyone's, you know, drug addict or like famous book writer, right? Or mortician even, right? But nonetheless, like the idea that the eldest tries to leave early, or like the baby is kind of a problem. You know, like, these are normal things that I think are universal.
Yeah, they just looking at again the dynamic of the kids, the 5 kids. You see a strong presence of, you know, who's who and who's where. And even here, just kind of like a little breakdown, like we mentioned Shirley already. She's more practical than the rest of them. She's protective. You know, and again, she's already kind of got her static with Stephen.
Yeah.
Because she's like, this motherfucker trying to make money off of our trauma, off our mom's, trauma, and he's just trying to get paid. And to be fair, he gave money to all of his siblings.
Yeah, no,
Although
he did
Shirley,
the right way. He did the right. Oh, I think we should say spoiler alert. So if you're watching this or listening to this, rather, like this is going to be a spoiler because we are breaking down the episodes.
look, they already know. If you've listened to any episode, you know. Even if this was a movie that came out yesterday, you know I'm spoiling because I can't keep a secret. So I'm gonna let y'all all know all the details. Like, oh my goodness, did y'all hear that Darth Vader is Luke's daddy? Like,
What?
dog. like I don't think Sophie gets it yet, so we're gonna try to watch Star Wars and see. We're gonna see. But as we go from Shirley again in birth order, you got Theo. She's guarded. She's empathetic, and she, her episode when it comes up is called The Touch because she has kind of that
ability where she's like a rogue almost, except it's like
I
an
was just
emotional
thinking
rogue.
it.
Yeah, it's like an emotional rogue.
Yeah, which I don't know. I got some funky shit going on with that too. Not to her level. I can't be touching people and just seeing what the fuck's going on. But there's some weird shit with touch and people. Like I don't like to be touched.
She's like a super empath. That's what it is.
Yeah,
like people that know other people's vibes, or you can see like, oh, you can sense that they're not in a good place or that they mean something malicious just by how they're coming across, and you don't necessarily need to touch them. But with her, she gets like that detail with it. And I think I should point out, she's my favorite character of all of them.
She's your favorite character? Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting about her, Kate Siegel, Mike Flanagan's wife? She and my wife share a birthday to the year, and they may have been born in the same hospital.
What?
Like, we were looking up her stuff. She's from Silver Spring, Maryland. We're like, get the fuck out of here.
Same birthday, Maryland.
Same year.
Same year.
And then like Mike Flanagan, like her and Mike Flanagan, like Mike Flanagan and I are the same age. It was like, oh my God. And he went to Towson out here in Maryland. It was like, oh, yo, quit copying, son. Like, yeah, y'all cats just want to be us. So now knowing that, I'm so much more attached to them. And yes, Theo is also my favorite character here, but I think it's because Kate Siegel. I just anything is like he does, Mike Flanagan does, and he has his wife in it. I'm like, dude, she's automatically my favorite character.
You know what? I thought it was a very good casting or whatever, but she does look like the mom. Like there's a resemblance there. So I thought that was kind of cool too. Like
and then as we go from Theo, we go to Luke. Again in birth order. He's more vulnerable. Yeah. And even as you see him as a kid, you kind of already get a hint that he's gonna struggle. He's gonna have some issues going on. And then last in the birth order, we get Nell, Nell, Nell. I don't know why I'd say her name funny. Nell. And she's also sensitive, vulnerable, and she's haunted by the Bentnet lady, which is, dude, that episode.
I mean, we'll get there, but basically that is a masterpiece of writing right there.
Boy, is it. And then let's not forget the parents. Hugh, again, you kind of get he's practical, much like Shirley, the eldest daughter. And he tries to protect the kids. He tries to keep them shielded from what he calls the mother's mental illness, and all the stuff around the house. He becomes very evasive about what happened that final night at Hill House. So he's and as you see him throughout the series, when he's the younger version with the kids and when he's like older with them as adults, like all the same, just very like, he's tight-lipped about a lot of stuff, and he talks kind of in riddles, not even riddles, but like he just talks in ways where it's like none of it makes sense, but he's telling a story but not trying to give those details. And then you look at the wife, the mom, Olivia, Obviously, you know, the mother, she's nurturing, but she's emotionally vulnerable. And the house's influence on her kind of plays a central part of everything that we get here with Hill House in its story. So as we kind of continue through, we're still in the first episode. Fuck.
Oh Lord! All right,
I got a feeling.
We can
I
push
got a
through.
feeling this is going to be a two-parter.
It might be. It might be. Here, check it out. So, let's give our impressions of the first episode. I think that's a cool way to go about it. What did you like filling that first episode out as a single thing? Not like knowing the rest of the story, but as a singular first episode. What did you feel? What was the vibe? What was the thought of like the characters?
So I look at the first episode the same way I look at. So take Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
Okay.
These are episode ones, the beginning of a part of something. You're getting your introduction to characters. And I don't tend to like these types of things, like these types of movies, because I just want to get to the meat of it. But Haunting of Hill House, even though they're giving you an introduction to these characters, they're still giving you meat. They're still giving you a beat of what's about to happen. And they string you along in a way where you're going to stay interested, even though you don't get to that big episode to episode 5 where it all comes together, but they still string you along because they give you the bent neck lady, and you're like, what the fuck is this haunting this little girl? You get Luke, and he's seeing the dude with the fucking cane and the top hat. You're getting all these different things. So they did a very good job of introducing everyone's different fears. And even Steven, he again doesn't really have a thing there. So you kind of latch on to him, like, okay, this is like kind of the core, the base. So what my impression of that first episode is like, it does a very good job at fleshing out everyone and everyone's path. Yeah, that's to come.
How about you, Love? What were your takeaways from that first episode? And then I guess like it is true. It's like a character introduction.
Yeah, I know. You know, when you ask that, and I think I hate when I do this to myself, because sometimes when I like something so much, I'll keep doing it because you're almost chasing the first time. You know what I mean? Like
you start to Luke.
We talk about it all the time. It's like, damn, like I wish I could see it again for the first time because it was so good.
Like Vikings.
Yeah, that Viking.
She's trying to chase that dragon. She's chasing the dragon like Luke.
Yeah. No, but honestly, same thing. I think it hooked me right away because what I realized when I watched the first show, what I do remember is that I liked that I was like, oh, it's more than just a horror. Just like what we started talking about. I think instantly you could see that with that first one because of the back and forth, and you already know they got past this thing. It's not those kinds of scary situations where they're just in the situation.
Yeah.
This is like a retrospective to that situation. So
that's right.
It makes you wonder, well, what happened in between? And I think that's the part that hooks.
Yeah.
I think for me, the big takeaway was that there was a non-believer right away. I kind of like that. That's why for me, I said he was like the Rock, right? I think for me, he was the Rock because I think like I'm a skeptic in general when it comes to ghost stuff. So I think like I found my relatable character instantly. And you see the horror happening. It's not one of those things where it happens, but no one sees it. Like it's being seen, like it's there, it's present. Right. So, these kids are going through something, but at the same time, that the eldest boy is like, he ended up growing up and he wrote a story about it. So you're almost like, and it's called He Sees a Ghost. So you're almost thinking like, oh, obviously he's a believer too. So it's kind of, it catches you off guard when he doesn't see a ghost. And then it kind of misleads you because he's talking to this lady about it and about her husband. And he's laying in the bed and he's like, he's that guy who puts himself in Alcatraz. He's that guy who goes to the Queen Mary and stays in that one room 33 or whatever it was. Like he's that guy. But except he goes there and nothing happens for him. And he's like, yep, nothing. You have a leak and there's a stop sign that used to be there. Like, no big deal. And it's kind of like, oh, damn, like I'm liking this, but how does he see a ghost? So already, like just the title alone and what's going on.
You talking about it right now, and this goes to when you watch the whole series and then you look back at that first episode is when you realize its significance, Because just like you just said right now, Dante, I'm chasing the dragon. You realize that's actually what he's doing. He's a skeptic, but he's putting himself in these places because he wants to understand what the heck happened when he was young. And since then, he's just chasing this dragon of like, I want it to happen to me so that I don't think my dad is this person, and I don't think my mom had mental health. Like, he wants to believe. He's actually Mulder. Yeah. He wants to believe, but
see, I didn't take that at all. That's an interesting take. I didn't take that at all. I thought he wants to disprove, but he understands that is his avenue for money.
Well, I think, two things can be right. I think he does see that avenue to make the money, but I agree. I think there is a part of him that is like, I want to believe, I want to understand it. It's like John Cusack in Room 1408. It's not that I don't believe in ghosts. It's just that I've never seen one. Mm-hmm. And, with the title of this episode being Steven Sees a Ghost, I mean, you kind of get well, you do get the wrap up at the very end of the episode.
And you see now, right? Yeah.
And what's crazy about that actually is that it wasn't until the second time that I even got the title of the episode and the fact that he sees his dead sister as a ghost. Because throughout the episode, Nell is trying to reach out to everyone. Mm-hmm. Everyone. And everyone kind of shrugs her off and kind of pushes back and everything. And then it turns out he gets to his apartment. Luke is there. And then he gets into the apartment and he sees Nell, and he's basically kind of scolding her, like, did you tell him where I live?
Right.
Did you let him, and she's not talking. And he's like, great, kind of just, not being a complete dick to her, but, being a big brother. Mm-hmm. And then Dad calls and says, yeah, Nell's dead. She went back to the house. She's dead. And he's like, what? I'm talking to her right now. And then as he turns, and this is something I really admire about the first episode too, is that, again, we get a lot of family drama, heavy on the family drama and build up, very light on the scares. We see the bent neck lady once, and we see Nell as a ghost at the end. So you get two scares. And you think, oh, this is a horror thing, but you're really getting a lot more family drama. But you do get your taste of horror there with your jump scares of sorts. But it's enough to let you know what you're getting into. But it's not enough to say, oh, like, they're using cheap scares to get you throughout the show, because
cheap scares.
Yeah,
like cheap scares are kind of bleh.
Hey, Gandhi, so did you do the scavenger hunt thing in you watching the series? Because I remember the first time I watched it, I liked it a lot. And then, I did the nerd thing where I'm like, oh, I want to read about this guy and read about this, So you go online. And I don't deep dive. I'm more like just shallow wade in the pool dive. And I remember reading like, oh, there was hidden ghosts. Like there's ghosts throughout every episode, but they're just like in the background somewhere. So I remember, like I said, I watched it like 3 or 4 times. And one of the times I watched it, I just focused on that. And you see them, but you have to actually pay attention. Like as things are happening in the show, you're not watching that. You're looking in the back hallway, or you're looking in the corner of a room, and it's just out of focus. And they're not even really like, it's just meant not to be primary focus. And I love that they did that, because it's just a reminder to you of like, oh, the haunting part isn't even the forefront of this show. Like, look at every episode, there's a ghost, but you don't see them. Like they're in a corner, just standing there.
Opposite Jaws.
Yeah.
Where Jaws was like, we're not going to show it until the climax. They're like, oh, they're just always there.
Yeah. Like, oh,
if you're looking, you'll see them. They're just there.
I thought that was
I do remember hearing about that. And I think the second time I went back to watch it, I did do that, but I also get distracted easily. So I started off like, yeah, I'm into this. And then I just start watching it again regular. I was like, oh, I forgot what I was here for. But, I remember hearing about it, and the thing about something like that, it does now give you. I like to focus a lot when I think about content, because there's so much content now that is ridiculous. But I like to think about content in terms of rewatch value. Like, can I watch this a second, third, fourth time, and there's something different, something new for me to pick up on? And that's one of those elements right there. So, I mean, again, you could watch it the first time and just look for it as a horror story. You can look at it the next time as a family drama. You can look at it the next time and you want to look for the ghost in the background. So there's all these different reasons to return to the series. So one thing, as I always mention to people, I'm big on themes, and some of the themes that I do want to point out here, and I want to spend a lot of time on, but I do want to point out some of the themes in this first episode at the very least. Themes and takeaways. You got denial versus belief,
Mhm.
and that's big with Steven. Memory versus haunting, again, with this being a Steven centric episode, again, big with Steven, and kind of playing through all the kids as
And he
well.
touched on that too. He talked about how you are seeing a ghost, and sometimes a ghost is a memory
Or a wish.
Yes.
or a wish. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So he touches on that.
Family estrangements. The episode sets up, the fractured relationship amongst the siblings that becomes kind of the core of the show, and foreshadowing. The bent neck lady being kind of the big part of it, because it's not just a ghost. It's foreshadowing a big part of the story later on. So just off that first episode, again, you really get into like this heart, and you're like, oh my god, like what more can you give me? And like it's just like it's a great way to start, I think.
Yeah,
To start a series. As we go into your second episode, it's Shirley centric, and we're not going to go as deep as we did with the first one, because I think the first one was important to go like kind of all in like that, because you got to kind of establish where the show is going. But your second episode is called Open Casket, and this kind of gives you an idea of why Shirley is the way she is, like in terms of like dealing with death and whatnot, because she finds kittens as a child, and she's allowed to keep the kittens because mommy's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And one by one, the kittens die.
Yep.
And she gets this kind of I don't want to say obsession, but she gets this attachment to like kind of respecting what was there, the memory of them, like keeping them looking a certain way. And I mean that goes into her owning a funeral home. And a core focus of this episode is kind of the funeral for Nell, as a setting, it's a setting as a pressure cooker for unresolved grief.
Right.
And this also goes to Shirley's obsession with control.
I think you touched on it there too, where like she was like very anti being in her mom's funeral, and then it was a mortician who kind of like walked her there, and kind of like, so I think maybe she felt that like, oh, those kinds of people are like people who can like do like, it's like I hold that position highly or something. So I always thought that, I thought that moment was big for her.
Well, to give Shirley, because we were rough on her a little bit ago,
So
but to give credit where credit is due, I think because she took that role where she's supposed to be a protector, like she's supposed to be that. I think that episode really helped you shape why she feels like that. Like she wants to prevent bad things that have happened to her to happen to others. And so, and you touched on it a lot when we were watching it. Well, we were talking about how we really noticed she had this thing about bugs. Like, because when she found out about her sister, and she was like, oh, you got to go pick her up because she's been there for days and there's bugs. And she kept repeating bugs. But then you realize that's what traumatized her about not just that the kittens died, but then the first one, when, she was about to bury it, like she thought it was alive because she saw it moving, but no, it was a bug coming out. So her fixation on like, I need to prevent the bugs, I think that just describes her to a T for her whole life. Like, just like her dad was like, I can fix this. That's what she has. Like, I need to prevent the bugs. And so she's hard on everybody because she's trying to be this protector. She's just really, she's just really bad at it.
And you know what? And she touches on that later. I'm not sure if it's the same episode or later, but it's her story where she was like, no one else can do this because they're not going to do it right. And it's almost that I have to take control, because if I don't do it, no, it's not going to get done right. If I don't do it, it won't get done. Or it's that mentality that she had that you're right, that the kittens were very big on the fact that like it showed what can be, and it was going to be her job to prevent it.
Yeah, it was that episode where she said she has to do it. Yeah, and that goes to the protector role of like, this is my sister. I need to take care of her.
And maybe that's where the resentment comes from.
Mhm.
Like she's resentful with everybody, but at the same time, she puts that on herself. Like, I'm gonna have to pay for Luke's, whatever, like drug institution, whatever, his halfway home. I'm gonna have to pay for that because no one else is. It's like, well, no one, you didn't let anyone else do it. You did it yourself, and now you're upset that you had to do it. No one said let Nell live with you, but now you're upset about that because she lives with you. But it's kind of like that weird duality of her role. Like she has to be the one to help you, but it's upsetting to her that she's always the one helping everybody.
Yeah, she's the I'll hold the door for you, but get mad at you if you don't say thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the responsible one, quotes. But she's responsible because she kind of thrust it upon herself. I mean, again, we mentioned it with Steven's episode. He kind of, removed himself from it. But, again, they can take it. You say they can take care of themselves, but at the same time, you got Luke who's in rehab. You got Nell who's, having her seizures and stuff, or night terrors.
Yeah.
Because her husband was having seizures. She was having the night terrors.
The sleep.
You have, sleep paralysis, and then you have Theo who has her, her closeness issues, and then again Steven just being Steven, a non-believer, I guess, if you will. So she's like, well, look, I got to keep everybody together. I have to do this. This is my responsibility. And it's like, well, is it though? I mean,
no one asked her to do it, but the reality is she held it together. And maybe she put it on herself, but it was still a very hard role.
Yeah. I mean, she's being a protector, but she's also being the judge. She's like protecting them, but also judging them at the same time. And it's like, is that helpful? I don't know. I look at it in those ways where it's like, I'm not going to again, hold the door for you and then get mad because you're not running. Because I'm holding the door. It's like, well, no, I'm going to hold the door for you because I chose to hold the door.
The best I got is high elbows. Like moving my arms fast. That's the best I got.
I'm going to give you the movement like I'm trying, but I'm not really. I'm shuffling my feet.
Yeah. Sometimes you just kind of lean your head forward a little bit. Like if you meant to go faster.
I'm letting go.
Make it look like you're trying.
Yeah.
There's also, part of this dynamic with her is like, again, the resentment of Steven in his book, like Luke and his failures. She's even made comments at Theo, Theo, in a later episode, she has a young lady over and she says that Theo's worse than a frat boy. She's like, I didn't think it was going to be the pussy patrol when I let you stay in the guest house. And it's like, and this is just, as you see her characters, is just kind of typical of her to like, there's always something to be said. There's always some judgment to be made. And it's like, relax.
She's a resentful helper.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that, that's one of my favorite dynamics too, is her and Theo, because one of my favorite scenes there is where Cheryl's complaining to Theo and she just one-lines her. Like, I just answered your problem. Because she's like, because look, this is this. And she's like, boundaries. And she's like, look. And she's like, boundaries. Like, she's like, just listening to her, you can solve this easily if you just did this. But, it's like, she
couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like if she did do those things and she set boundaries from everyone else, then she wouldn't be able to complain. And if she wasn't able to complain, then she wouldn't be happy about having something to complain about. It's the typical depressive thing where you're only happy if you're depressed, because if you weren't depressed, you'd have to deal with the real world, which would be depressive.
It's like when you look at some of her other actions as well, as her husband points out, she's doing a lot of stuff like pro bono.
Oh no, yeah, same thing.
And
it's the same problem. Like to a T, that's her. Like complain about not having money, but not doing anything to help herself.
Yeah, you're giving away services. Like, and it even goes to the point of later on when the husband says, "Yeah, we took the money from Steven too."
Oh, killed her.
And she's pissed, and he's like, "Look, we were like underwater.
Mhm.
Like, we needed this money because you're fucking giving away services. Like, we run a business and you're giving away services. And then the thing is, like, it's from the right place, it's from the heart, but also too, it's like, I mean, you have a business, but also too, you're bitching about a lot of stuff that was avoidable.
Yeah.
But, so Shirley, get your shit together, girl. And some of the themes that are pointed out in this episode are control versus chaos, which is all her,
All
like
her.
all the
That's
control, but
perfect.
her control causes the chaos, I think. Death and dignity, like her work at the funeral home, it's not just a career, it's a response to those kittens, in her childhood. Anger and grief, she doesn't just rage, like her resentment and her judgment and her need for control kind of embodies the anger stage of grief. Because like when we talk about the stages of grief, if there's anyone that fully looks like they're one of those stages, it's her with anger.
Yeah, she's moments away from an aneurysm at all times.
Yeah, it's like you're just looking at her like, all right, today's the day.
You're worried about her forehead being that's also a side character in the show. It's like, oh no, we gotta protect it.
I didn't want to be the one to point it out. All right, so going into episode 3 is titled Touch, and this is theocentric, and the core focus there is Theo's empathic ability, as both a gift and a curse. Boundaries, emotional, physical, and psychological, and childhood fear kind of translated into adult detachment.
And
so,
I want to say this one had one of the, I think the first real scary scene that made you go like you kind of rose in your seat when the, what is it called? The little the food elevator.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
The lazy,
the dumbwaiter.
Dumbwaiter.
There we go.
Yes.
I know. I kept thinking lazy Susan.
Lazy Susan,
It feels like it's all related.
People were mean back then.
No, but I think food elevator worked. But yeah, like with that scene, it was one of the first that was like, oh no, and
do we know who that ghost was? Was it the guy who bricked himself in?
I believe, they said it was the former resident of the home.
Right. But I mean, like when Luke went down there and he went down the dumbwaiter and basically got his shirt ripped by the ghoul or the ghost or whatever.
I don't think it ever exists. I don't think it ever ghost?
I think that it did get mentioned, but it was kind of in a like just passing, but they didn't go into detail.
That was John, the shirt grabbing ghost.
I mean, he looked like a John.
Yeah,
if I had to guess, but I don't think they gave him a name per se. But I know they did kind of like give a little like mention of him, because they mentioned the other folks throughout the house, and they mentioned like it may like, well, not what that may have been, but they mentioned another person down there in the basement and kind of gave a hint at something. I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's not that important, because like.
Well, I mean, actually, I'm thinking about it. Like, it was so many generations. Like, they say it was a 100-year house, but it was more than 100 years, I think, because at the end, when you spoiler at the ending, there's like so many different lives that were lost there. So it wasn't like it was just like 4 people. It did center around about 3 or 4 ghosts, but basically, realistically, that house was filled with ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, as any older house would be.
Right.
Through the generations. Some of the bigger things with this episode, again, as it's theocentric, you get a glimpse as to what she does for work. She's a child psychologist, and she uses her ability to help children and sense trauma during therapy sessions. And the big thing is, again, the episode's titled Touch. I mean, she touches you, she can kind of get a sense of what's going on and see your past. You also see her going out to clubs, and before you know what's going on, you see her like touch people, rub up against people, and it's this whole thing. You're like, this broad is really like bizarre. But it turns out like no, she she's getting the vibe of people. And she even mentions to Shirley when the one girl leaves, she was like, was she nice? She was like, she's a basket case. And it's like, it's like, like again, you kind of think like, what the fuck? But it's like, again, she did a lot of touching with her, obviously. So she can get kind of a beat on everything on what's going on there. Part of the thing with Theo's family dynamic, or the family dynamic through Theo, she's protective of Nell. You see this as kids, and even as adults, she actually does have a relationship with Nell of some sorts. Like it's almost
the middle child better than anyone else in the show, even though she was the young, like she was the middle child, but not really because of the numbers, right? But I think she really was the most middle childish, where like she's strong-willed, she's herself, she's confident in herself because she wasn't the baby and she wasn't the big boy. So I think her sense of self was very strong. She didn't have to like defend herself for being different. She was like, I am, and so what? And you kind of see that.
She was comfortable being by herself.
She was comfortable being.
The little ones always wanted somebody to play with them. Yeah. The older ones were always trying to like follow.
Trying to be the adults.
Yeah, or the leaders of the little ones. And she was the one that's like, I'm good by myself.
Yeah.
That was a thing about Theo too, is that when you look at the older two, they kind of separate off on their own, and then the younger two are twins. So she was kind of that kid who was almost kind of forgotten. And it's weird because even though she's my favorite character, at least when they're kids, you forget that she's there. Kind of. It's like you see the stories of Steven and Shirley, and Theo's almost kind of an afterthought of sorts.
Yeah.
And then you got the twins. And then once they grow up,
obviously looking for Nell, and then the eldest is trying to be with dad, but then he's also hanging out with the little brother, and then obviously Shirley's just terrible her whole life. But yeah, you're right. Like Theo, you forget she's even a character sometimes because she's just there. She's just quietly there doing her own thing.
She also part of that family dynamic. She clashes with Shirley. Wow, a lot of is in there. And a big part of that is, again, Shirley being controlling. She doesn't agree with Theo's lifestyle. And she's kind of resentful of Theo being so distant. And again, being that it's kind of weird because like as the middle child, yes, you have Steven playing big brother to everyone, but she kind of plays like older sibling, like big protector to the twins. She has a soft spot for Luke.
Period. Because that's why I think she grew up to be the child psychologist, because I think she was the natural protector. I think Steven was Steven didn't want it from the beginning. He just wanted to be like
accepted by his dad.
Yeah. Not even that, but I really think he wanted to be a fixer too. Like he wanted to be what his dad was. The other one was the one that was pushed into, you have to be a protector. Because remember, her mom was like giving her the face of you should go play with her. So then she accommodated and said, okay, I don't want to do this, but what if we do this instead? And I think, but the whole time Theo on her own was protective of her brother when, he was getting, was it her brother when Luke getting scolded by by the caretakers?
The caretaker.
Or, or she was protective of, her sister all the time. And then when she grew up, she was protective of the kids, as a child psychologist. And then she had this, like, I'm a friend. Like you could tell she was a lot softer with her niece. So she had that where she was naturally, just, you could tell, like the ones that are vulnerable, she wanted to naturally protect.
She's a protector. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, like when you take her and break it down, and you see she becomes a child psychologist. And what's funny is, like, as I'm looking at my notes, it's like, oh damn it, dude, like I don't have like the one big part from the episode, and it's kind of sad. Is as a child psychologist, she has this case with this little girl.
That's rough.
And she's talking about this smiling man, and then you come to find out that the dad is, I believe she's a foster child, I believe,
Yes,
or adopted. And it turns out the dad is actually, forcing himself upon the kid. And this is discovered through Theo's, because the little girl doesn't actually speak up about it, but Theo, with her touch kind of, gets that information. And, again, it goes to the ideal of, being a protector.
And they do also touch on that, like where she's talking to her like contact at the station, the police station, and she's like, have I been wrong before? So this is a thing she does. Like she's almost like she's out there to make these things right. Like she's out to right the wrongs. She's out there to protect the kids. She's out there to do this. Like that's like her goal. That's how she kind of like finds herself, or maybe like centers herself with coming to terms with her family and what happened to her mother. She's like, I'm going to protect children.
Yeah. And you see kind of the whole thing with the touch stuff later on too, in the episode, The Two Storms, where there's all this like chaos at the funeral home, and she's drunk and she falls down and they go to help her up and she screams, "Don't touch me.
Don't touch me." Yeah.
And I wonder, like, especially when drunk, is it more intense? You think about when she's going out to the clubs and she's drinking, and it's like, I wonder if like the alcohol makes it a lot more intense for her. But like Theo's a character that I would be happy just to have a whole like show on what's going on with her alone. But also, again, anything that Mike Flanagan, like works on, I'm in it, because his wife's going to usually be a character, and I'm like, you know what, I'm here for Mike and Kate. Just give me your stories. Some of the themes for this episode that stand out are in intimacy and boundaries. As she has her gloves, like as we mentioned earlier, like Rogue from the X-Men, who always wears gloves. Her gloves are both like a literal and metaphorical boundary or shield for her.
You know what's important too about this episode? It's the episode where you are introduced to the fact that her mom also has abilities. Because you remember, that's the episode where she like before the gloves happen, she touches her mom and she sees something terrible and it scares her. And her mom saw that she saw something terrible. So instead of pressuring her, she just kind of told her, "Hey, I know, there are things out there that maybe people, aren't used to, and it's okay." And so she gave her the gloves. So I think that was a really important scene too, because it just gave us an idea of that, her mom had that gift also, but of how like accepting her mom was, because the whole series is centered around these terrible things that the mom did. But then you get those little moments in each of those episodes with the kids where you realize like, no, she was a really loving mom. Yeah. And that's why they're struggling so much with what's happening, because, they're torn between the loving part and then the part that's basically has built the rest of their lives.
And they touch on it kind of later in the series too, where like the mom basically like I forgot who she's speaking with, but she's like, "Oh yeah, like I see the ghost. Of course I do." Like it was never like I don't see the ghost, but it makes you think like it was almost a perfect storm for that house, because she's been seeing ghosts her whole life. This wasn't like she came to this house and now she's seeing ghosts. This is someone who was very sensitive with this kinds of things and had seen things before and wasn't frightened by it. She didn't come into the house afraid of the house. Where the kids were, I think that was the first time that was like their first introduction to seeing these things or feeling these things. The mom was not. It was very normal for her, and she kind of like normalized it to a point where it almost like the comfort of a trap, right?
Yeah. And that is a good point to even think about. It's like, it's not like the house was like the first time this has happened for her. This like the house is actually probably more now like lightning rod, or she's the lightning rod. Actually, it's like she gets there and it's like, oh my god, these things are everywhere here, like fuck, like and there's probably never any awareness of it for like the rest of the family, because like mom might see things here and there, but it's not a big deal. But at the house, there's so much of it that she can't help but react in such a way that
when you just said right now to the lightning rod, I think you're so right, because they do touch on that too, that there was specific, I think the main characters that they touch on in the show regarding the impact that the house has on them are, they touch on one which we never meet, which is the caretaker's mother. Because remember, he talked about like, yeah, she started doing crazy things and it affected her this way, and you realize that. So these are like specific conduits, right, that maybe the house sees and or feels and then thinks, oh, I'm going to use this person. Because the other one is that flapper young girl that they said, oh, she was always like crazy her whole life. And I think the house took that in, and she was doing awful things. And you don't see that until the very end, when you realize, oh, she's that ghost that likes hurting, or she's that spirit that's dangerous. And so I think when this family came in, the house looked at them and said, oh, this is the one that's gonna like be the hook for the rest or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we mentioned the boundaries theme, empathy as a burden, because I mean that's Theo in a nutshell right there. I mean, she's an empath, and it's you question, is it a gift or is it a curse? Her with the touch and everything. While others in the family, they fight against this belief in the supernatural. Theo, she can't escape it. It's super obvious with her. And her empathy forces her to acknowledge this with her mom and then just others in general, anything. So you have that problem. And then the theme of family protection, we mentioned it, Theo being a protector, and is she really being the real protector when you think about it? Because again, Steven didn't want the job, and Shirley reluctantly took the job, but kind of shitty at it. And Theo's actually the one that's like, look, I give a fuck, I care. And she may come off as someone who's distant, but again, she had a soft spot for Luke. She loved Nell. She loved her other siblings and her parents, but there was also this distance that she had to kind of keep, because like too much empathy can drive you fucking crazy. And she being how she is, it would fucking be terrible.
Yeah,
so,
I think the word I'm thinking is like overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like, it's overwhelming.
Yeah. So I guess we didn't really, talk about like our thoughts on episode 2 or, and I guess 3 here as well. But like, as you're now 2-3 episodes into the series, what are your thoughts as you're watching this? Like, how are you feeling?
Love.
Well, I like that they go chronologically. Like they start with the eldest, then the second episode was the second eldest.
Yeah.
And then, so you already know the next episode is going to be about Luke. So then that becomes the hook, because you want to hear like what's their stories. And then if that one's about Luke, then the next one's going to be about Nell. And you need to find out what the heck happened there that led to, how the show started. So I think that was, that's around the time that I started realizing that, oh, okay, this is what we're doing, and then you want to be there. You want to hear like, oh, what happened to them? What was their point of view? Like, as they're introducing them, you see the mess that they are. So you want to know, like, where did that start?
And for me, I think what one thing you said that kind of caught my ear was it starts with a murder or a death, right? Like you don't know, but something happened. Mm-hmm. It's a suicide, but even with the suicide, you kind of feel like, was it her or was it the house?
Yeah.
Like, so like it's kind of like it leaves you with that question. And now, like, for me, what I'm feeling is that every episode is getting me closer to the answer of Nell's actual death, like, which ultimately will be the house, which ultimately will probably touch on the mom. But really, I think the show itself is not really about the mom as much as it is about solving Nell's murder. And that's why, like, for me, the last couple episodes feel like almost like an afterthought, like let's wrap it up. Because I was chasing the conclusion of the Nell mystery. And then the Nell mystery was all the kids come together to solve this thing, and they're dealing with their grief for Nell after having to have stopped grieving for their mother.
No, but see, I was literally gonna say right now, like, no, man, but it's way deeper than that, and it made me think of Half Baked, where you want to go like it's more complex than that. No, I feel like it is more complex because the whole show, since it jumps back and forth in time, and then even with the ghost itself, like they touch on the fact that time isn't linear. Like they're like raindrops. It says going on. So I love the fact that the whole show, like you said, started with, oh, this happened. How did we get there? And then halfway into the series, it tells you, oh, this is how it got there. This is who it is. Yeah. And this is the mystery from the first episode. And you're only halfway into the series. So for me, that was a perfect almost beginning. So it's like it re-begins. I don't feel like it was an afterthought. I thought like
you're
the
right.
middle kind of market.
Afterthought's
like,
kind of weird. Yeah. Afterthought was a bad word, but basically you're chasing that like big, what's this mystery about? And then you get the mystery, and it opens the door to the mystery of the house, I think, which is the mystery of the mom. It is the mystery of the dad. It is the mystery of the rest of the series, basically. But I think at this point, like we said, like on episode 1, 2, 3, I'm chasing that the what happened to Nell narrative right now. Like in my mind, that's what I'm doing at episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
So you do get kind of a thing in episode 3 also where Theo takes her glove off and she touches Nell's corpse.
Oh yeah.
And this fucks with Nell or with Theo, because she gets a glimpse of what the fuck is going on. And the thing is, we don't see that yet. We don't get it. But Theo, she gets it. Like, and that's kind of the thing. Like Theo always knows. She's always there. She always has a beat on everything. So, coming out of this episode, I felt like, it kind of goes back to the Nell mystery, because when you see Theo touch, was like, well, what the fuck does she see?
Yeah.
She, like, she's feeling it.
Yeah.
So going into episode 4, it's titled The Twin Thing, and as Alicia pointed out, we're looking at this in order now. We know it's Luke's turn. And our core focus here is Luke.
Register that, by the way. I didn't register that it went chronologically from the eldest to the youngest. I didn't catch that.
You know what's funny is, like, I probably did, but I didn't. But it didn't. So there's another podcast, Hello Sydney, and she covered this episode too, and she also covered Fall of the House of Usher, and she pointed out how in this one it goes from oldest to youngest, and in that one it goes from youngest to oldest. And then after hearing, I was like, oh yeah, I guess it does. As I think back, and that went back, I was like, oh, son of a bitch, it does.
Oh, spoiler! Right. Watch it.
Oh yeah, dude, you gotta watch it. That shit is so good. But episode 4 is The Twin Thing, and this is Luke. It's kind of the twin centric episode, but it's more Luke than Nell, than anything. And it's gonna focus on Luke and Nell's trauma and bond. It focuses on Luke's addiction, independency, and his fear of abandonment. And this is where we kind of get introduced. Like, we know of the bent neck lady, but this is where it becomes a looming presence, where it's like now the bent neck lady is kind of, it's everywhere. She's unavoidable. It becomes a presence of the show. Like you got your hints earlier in the first episode and little glimpses here and there, but this is where now it's like, oh shit, like we in some shit now. But as I mentioned, you talk about the addiction. So Luke as an adult, it's sad because he's an addict, and we mentioned Shirley earlier, and she's just very dismissive of him.
Yeah,
just making him out to be a problem. And I don't know, because I've had friends with addiction problems, and maybe I'm more Theo-like than anything, where I care and I want to help them, and I don't ever dismiss anyone with a problem. It's like, you've got a problem. The last thing they need is that someone doesn't care, someone doesn't believe in them, someone doesn't think they can get better. So it is kind of heartbreaking. He's accused of being unreliable and manipulative and capable of change. So it's really a sad episode as you see it kind of unfold.
And that episode too, one of the things that I found so sad was, you see him struggling the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. With his personal, first, again, with not being believed was a big deal to him. And then when he grows up, nobody believes him anymore. And that's like,
Yeah.
that's his fear. And now he's living it. But then at the end, you see how close he is with his sister. You see how much their relationship is special. And that's why it's like, I feel like it's called the twin thing. But then at the end, when he learns what happened, you can't help but feel like, oh man, he's already on the ledge. Like he's already struggling. He's going through all of this, and now we're gonna throw this at him.
Yeah.
Like you feel that we're like, no, Luke. Like you want to, it's like, no, Luke, because yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, how's he gonna get past this? Like this is the sucky as it gets, know, and it's still, he still has to deal with it.
Yeah, like that's the thing. I can't speak for it because I'm not a twin, but that's kind of the thing you always hear about the twin thing. Like they always portrayed it in G.I. Joe with not Zartan, but the two twins that were always in business suits. They always felt each other's pain. If one got punched, the other one felt it. You kind of get this sense here, whereas like Luke feels Nell's pain from across the country or wherever the fuck they may be, but from a distance. So, you see in one of the sequences, he wakes up shivering and it, he's kind of like looks like or feels like he's going through withdrawal, but we find out what it really was, that Nell had returned to Hill House, and that he felt that though she went there and he felt it in his soul. So, again, that's that twin thing, that this, you always hear about it, and they're portraying it here in the show. And the bond, like this bond makes Nell's death especially more difficult for him because again, they're twins.
Well, it touched on how he actually felt in that part where he thought, he said he felt like he was going through withdrawals. When you think about the timeline of it, he woke up startled and like rubbing his neck, which is and that's another thing. Every episode looks at the clock at 3:03, and in the West Coast.
Oh, I love that. Yes, say it.
And the West Coast, where Steve and where Steve lives and Nell was living before, it was 12:03 because there's a 3-hour difference. So they all wake up at the same time,
the same minute, regardless of time. It was the same moment
because they all said something had happened, and we of course realized that that's when Nell died. But he wakes up and like he's like rubbing his neck, and so oh, his neck hurts, and then he just feels off the next day. And then when he's going through what he feels is withdrawal, when you really think about it, and when he starts saying, "I just feel so cold," he goes, my arms feel stiff, my legs still feel stiff. You start realizing, oh, she's going through rigor mortis. Like that's what it is. He's feeling what's happening to her body is what he's feeling. He's getting stiff. He feels cold. Yeah, because she was at that point just hanging there. And remember, because she got found like a day later in the day. So that's what he was experiencing, what was happening to her body. And when you think of it that way, like it's so morbid and it's really that's really sad.
There's feeling like sympathy pain, and then there's feeling sympathy death.
Right.
Yeah. That poor dude was feeling death.
Yeah.
And not for nothing, I'm very, very familiar with the time differences between the East Coast and the West Coast. Trust me.
It's really 6 o'clock over now.
Many a times I'm recording with Manuel. We'll get done at like midnight my time, or like 1, and we'll talk for like another like 2 hours. Like, dog, I gotta go to work in an hour. I go to work and they're like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy? I was like, nothing, just podding. Like what time did you get done podcasting? About 3. I was like, really? I was like, well, I mean, it was midnight for them. Like, I don't get it. But yeah, that's a great point, is that he was kind of feeling what she was physically going through.
Yeah.
And he doesn't quite get it. He doesn't know what's happening. He just knows like, this doesn't feel right. My neck hurts. I'm feeling stiff. I'm cold. Meanwhile, these are all the things that Nell's feeling. And
and it clicked for him, I think, in the next episode, right? When his sister was describing like what, they, she was hanging, they like her neck broke, and he instantly caught that. He was like, her neck. And like he realized, oh, I felt that,
Yeah.
I remember catching that too.
And also kind of playing into Luke's story in the flashbacks as a kid. he's haunted by the man in the bowler hat, the tall man, I guess. And this ghost floats down the hallways, always kind of getting into Luke's space. And this is supposed to symbolize Luke's vulnerability. Something always towering over him that's inescapable, that others don't take seriously. Like no one ever believed him. They always doubted him. So they're like, this ghost is kind of that, what plays into that. And the mom, she comforts Luke, but like at the time though, it was kind of shaky because she's unstable. So it's like she's trying to comfort him, and she's feeling a certain way, so she couldn't completely be there. So but the flashbacks kind of reinforce how Luke always had this fear, and this is where the trauma kind of began early for him, and that's kind of what probably led him to his addictions. So
not being accepted, not being believed.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's their connection too, because this episode is called The Twin Thing, and we're talking about how they feel each other, or he felt what her body's going through too. But I believe from all the kids, they're the only two that are actually haunted, like where something is following them even after their life, because she sees the bent neck lady even into her adulthood, and he sees the bowler man even into, like, the bowler hat man even into his adulthood, whereas the others aren't dealing with that. So it's like, you think about that, it's like, oh, it's a twin thing. And they're the two that are experiencing that. And they're the two that are like, wow, nobody believes me. It's just, of course, he wasn't coping with it as well as Nell was. But in her case too, I mean, she was unhealthily, like, just burying it, not talking about it. But, it blew up eventually. But yeah, so that was the other.
One thing I caught the second time, kind of a tidbit. The second time I watched it, I didn't realize that the guy that was that bricked himself into the basement, that was the bowling hat guy. Bowler guy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I didn't catch that the first time, but the second time, I remember thinking like, oh dang, like that's who he was. So, and she the little flapper talked about him.
No, it was it was in Theo's vision, the girl. Remember, like, she was the one telling her the story, like in that scene where they're being intimate, and she's telling the story of the man who trapped himself in. He always felt so small, but then afterwards he felt so tall, and
so many things that is being discussed right here, and then just this section here actually gets repeated in Fall of the House of Usher. Everything.
Really?
All the bricking in, you're so small, all of that, the flapper girl, all of it. It's dude, go watch it.
Yes. Okay, we'll watch it. We'll watch it.
I'm telling you. And you know what? I will say too, not to go too much into it, or because I know this is right now about Haunting Hill House, but that's another thing too, is that what I really like about these Mike Flanagan shows is, like, this one, touched a lot, like, there was heavy things, but in moderation. And when you watch Midnight Mass, there was heavy things, but almost like PG-13. It wasn't like you could sit through it and watch it probably with, a child that matured enough, because it wasn't crazy. But Fall of the House of Usher is like, oh no, like, you don't do that around your kids. That's not for, no, that is really adult themed.
Very much.
I was surprised about, because I don't really get that from the other series, but that one was a little much.
Like everything here, like, because I just remembered the whole breaking the man in and everything. I was like, oh yeah, duh. And then when you mentioned the flapper girl, I was like, oh yeah, those things too. And there's just so much there that all kind of connects. Not that the two stories connect, but I mean, it's Mike Flanagan work, so he connects things, using the same actors. I mean, the mirror from the movie Oculus, I believe he went and actually bought the mirror afterward, and he puts that mirror in all of his shows and movies somewhere, somehow. So big giant mirror, be on the lookout for it. So with the twin thing episode themes that you deal with here is obviously addiction with Luke, because that's kind of the big thing. and haunting. Luke's withdrawal symptoms and supernatural experiences kind of blur, making addiction itself feel ghostly and terrifying. Belief and dismissal, another big thing because nobody believes Luke. The sibling bond, obviously the twins, and then helplessness. All these things are very prevalent themes in the episode. Now, as we exit episode 4, I mean, in as much as watching it multiple times, I enjoy that episode. The first time I watched that episode, it was almost kind of a throwaway episode for me a little bit because I just felt like something, because, again, once you're going in order, Nell's dead, so she's next. So I almost kind of looked at this as kind of like a bridge episode, even though it was actually very, very important and some heavy themes. But it's like, yeah, I get it. But I need to get to episode 5. I need to know what's coming in episode 5, because if we're going in order of the kids and there's only one that's left, I need to fucking know what happened to Nell. And that's where we go to episode 5.
Which I realized, I don't know if he did it this way. I'm not sure if that's something you do as a writer. I have no idea if it's just like something I'm used to because there's always a mid-season finale.
Mm-hmm.
This is like the perfect mid-season finale to give that little wrap up on the last person. Like it almost keeps you interested halfway into the story. Like, oh, that was a good like so many questions were answered, but now there's these new questions, and so I think they did a good job there. Wrap up on this kind of like, I guess I'm kind of jumping the ship here a little bit, going into this episode of how I felt about it. But I do think that it was a very well paced, where by the time you get to Nell's story, you kind of feel good about how much you've invested because of what you've got, but you have new questions.
No, I agree. And the way that it's kind of structured, because it's a 10 episode series, you get the number 5. So obviously each of the kids are themed in each episode. So it's like, all right, this is the big one, episode 5, the bent neck lady. And your core focus here is going to be time loops and how things are inevitable. Nell's life viewed through the lens of trauma, and the revelation that the haunting is self-perpetuating. So, I mean, just kind of jumping ahead, she's haunting herself.
Yeah.
Which fucking blew my mind. And I was like, I'm getting chills now. And I'm in a basement by myself right now. I'm fucked right now.
New fear unlocked, right? If I see myself in the future dead with a bent neck, no. Don't. Like that's messed up. I'd rather see a stranger ghost. I welcome stranger ghosts and stranger trauma, but I don't, like, nobody wants to know their own death, or at least most people don't. So that's like a double scare.
Yeah. And like cinematography is like a big part of this show too. I think I don't think we've talked about it much at all, but realistically, the cinematography in this show is just top notch. Like the angles they use and just like the creative ways to tell a story and say so much without having to put the words out there, because it's giving you the perspective from a certain position. Like I'm a nut for that. It's why I like I'm terrible with names, like Vince Gillian or whatever his name is, the Breaking Bad guy. Like what he does with camera angles is amazing. Like it's just it's so interesting to watch his shows in general. To give more to piggyback on that, I should say. I don't want to jump too much ahead, but I want to mention that was my favorite part of the episode after the open casket, how it seems like it's just one shot. Like they just, it just goes in circles in the funeral home, it just follows, like there's no break in it. Yeah, you're a fly on the wall. So you're watching it happen. And it's continuous.
So that is a point of the next episode, the 2 storms. That is actually a very, very open point in the notes, is that they talk about how it is one shot and it's just the camera kind of panning around, and in both time frames, when you talk about the past with the storm in the past and the storm in the present, that's very intentional, and it's fucking great.
It's beautifully done.
Oh yeah. It really is. And again, we have to give the kudos to the cinematography and the show, because it's its own character. It's so well done. Yeah. But back to bent neck lady, the again, cinematography, the best thing they did there is the drop of
Oh
her.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, where it's just showing you like it's your aha moment done in a like a shock with shock value.
Mhm.
It's an aha
Yeah.
moment with shock value. Like, oh, it just keeps going. Like
It takes you to all the moments that you saw early.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it made so much sense to you when you see it that way, how it was so terrifying when she was little because it would speak. I'm saying it being the bent neck lady, like it screamed.
Mhm.
It and then it spoke. It said no, 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 especially in that scene with the where she's sleeping on the couch, right? So the second time she saw it,
Yeah.
and it's like no, 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 no. And that's scary because you're like, what the heck are you telling me, weird thing? And then but then you see it now in this scene and it went backwards. It went from like this just happened. This is where you just saw me like the day before. And then it ends where she's realizing what's happening here and she starts saying no, 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 because she's realizing I freaking hunted myself. And then the scream of terror at the end, and it's like, oh, so it's like this weird loop,
Yeah.
from perspective.
And it makes perfect sense on both sides.
Yes.
Like that's the worst part. The worst part is it makes sense. Like that's like the ugly part almost. Like it's so not supernatural. It's exactly how you would react in that situation. And where, like you said, the first instance of those like scream or a couple words, it's kind of like it's so like ambiguous, you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
But then when you see it chronologically from the bent neck lady's viewpoint, you understand why she said what she said, when she said it, and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
So for the bent neck lady, I'll go a little bit more detail with this episode just because it's such a big one. And even though we just kind of went over a whole lot there, just kind of going through the story a bit, because this episode, it opens up with Nell. She's experiencing her nightmares, which is the bent neck lady. And this episode differs where unlike the earlier ones where the ghost is a mystery, here we are leaning more into Nell's lifelong terror, I guess. Like we get to see how the shadowy figure starts haunting her throughout her childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. With the nonlinear structure, it starts to take shape, jumping across different times in Nell's life, showing that the trauma is not confined to just one moment, but it stretches endlessly. So this framing makes the audience like really ask, like, well, what the fuck is the bent neck lady really? And like as we just mentioned, like it's fucking her. It's Nell. It's her haunting herself, but like when you're watching it, you do have that question, like, well, what the fuck is this? We know that she struggles with sleep paralysis, and we see her as an adult kind of grappling with that, and the sleep paralysis, it mirrors haunting essentially. Like my daughter just asked us about it the other day.
I've never had it. My wife's had it. I know other people, other family members who've had it. I've never had it, right? But it's by all accounts, you want to talk about a scary thing? That's scary.
I don't even.
We didn't even talk about that moment, the moment where her husband dies, and she's having to basically be conscious of it, and she's just like helpless. Helpless. It's just, oh man, and I think that's one of those fears that gets worse as you get older. The older you are, after you have kids, helplessness is the worst of the fears. It becomes bigger and bigger as you get older.
Yeah, like I know for me, I sleep with a sleep mask on, and it's kind of it's like hollowed, so like I can like blink my eyes and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, and a big part of that is because of the sleep paralysis and like waking up and like seeing shit like, oh no, fuck this. I also sleep with the TV on, like, but I have it set where the TV will shut off.
I love that.
After a bit of time, but there's some deeper shit to that I just kind of stumbled into. I was like, that makes sense. But also I can feel the TV, like when the TV's on, I can feel like I can't describe it, but I feel it on my skin, and my wife hates it. but it's the only way I can like go to sleep, and it's a whole thing. But having that sleep mask on has helped me many a time where I know I've woken up and I'm like, fuck it is, like here it is again. But because the mask is on, I can't see outside of it, and I'm just like, all right, we good, go back to sleep.
That doesn't scare you more? Like the void, the not being able to see what could be right there.
It didn't until you mentioned the void. He was
So-
fine until you said all that fucked up shit, man.
I sleep with when my wife works at night, Sunday through Thursday. So I sleep with the door locked. And so that gives me a little bit of comfort.
Mhm.
But on Friday and Saturday nights, she's home and she hates the door being locked. So I don't sleep with the mask on. And you know, I'm fine, but it's still just kind of that whole thing is like, because like, man, if I had the mask on and the doors unlocked, that would actually mess with me more, because it's like anything could be standing there, more than likely nothing, but you know, there could be something there. So, but anyhow, sorry, we like
I digress.
Yeah.
so anyhow, but yeah, like the whole thing with her sleep paralysis, though, it does kind of mirror her being haunted. She tries therapy and she's on medications, but
Whoa. No, she's not. She lies at therapy and she ditches her medication.
Yeah, this episode,
it's sad for her. You see the spiral,
Yeah.
bro.
you see
her
the
going down.
unraveling,
Yes.
the unraveling of her mental health.
Yes.
And it's triggered. Like she always had it, so you could tell she went to therapy because she was like, I need to fix this. And I felt like, you know, or because she was going to therapy, and then she went because she's like, I need to get a hold of this sleep paralysis. So then she goes to this, you know, to get treatment. Like she's making all these efforts to get past this, to move forward. She meets this wonderful man doing that.
Yeah.
Now she has this amazing like life and this amazing future to look forward to. And then when that like thing happens that just completely breaks her, everything unravels.
Yeah.
It's like, now I'm just going through the motion. I'm going to keep going to therapy, but I'm not going to tell the truth. Like I'm going to keep collecting my prescriptions, but I'm not going to take it.
Oh,
you know, like it's just she just
her
unravels
ugly
completely.
moment with her older brother where she confronts him. Like that was like one of those uncomfortable to watch situations. Like, and you could, I love how they portrayed it as a glorious moment for her, because when people are ill, that's what they feel they're doing. They're like, yeah, I did exactly what I wanted to do.
Like,
I was so
stood up for
happy.
myself.
And you're like, no, you
made
you
an
made an ass of yourself.
Yeah.
You were an asshole. Like, what are you doing? Like, and she was such an asshole in that situation. It's like, I remember like watching that, talking to my wife and be like, oh my God, all these things needed to be said, but they should have been said in private. Like this was a private conversation, and she chose, like, this is how she does it. Like, this is how she chose
and he
to talk
touched on
about
that
that.
too. She's like, really now? Like,
yeah,
you know, you just embarrassed me, and you embarrassed
this
yourself.
this is my work. This is like this is not even what I like. Even him, like, he knows he's lying about how he presents himself, but this is a job. Like, he needs this money. His family needs the money. He needs the money. This is a job. At the end of the day, whether I believe or not doesn't matter. I'm doing something to earn a living, and she just came and crapped on it, and like. Yeah, like it was like, that was a rough scene. Like, well done. And it was a rough scene. It was so human that like, and that's where the family drama is at its peak, in moments like that, where it's not about the ghosts. It's about the fear of what your sibling's gonna say to you in a at dinner during an episode. You know, like that's ugly.
So, and actually, even kind of playing back to, you know, mentioning the family not being okay with him. I kept saying, no, surely everybody else was cool with it. Well, no, Nell was also like, yeah, fuck off. Like, you know, because again, Theo took the money. Even Shirley's husband took the money. Luke, I don't know if it was really determined.
He took the money in a different way.
He shot up the money, but I think also with Nell too, you know, as is, you know, was mentioned, is like, she was lying to a therapist, and you know, she ditched her medication, but again, she did, like, it starts off an idea of like, okay, this is gonna help, but then like after Arthur dies, it becomes this thing of like, well, I'm a lost cause.
Oh yeah,
like nothing's
She
going to
lost the
save me
will
now.
right there. You could tell she lost the will.
Well, and he was also kind of the anchor. Like he was there and she was fine. She wasn't having
because
problems.
he was a sleep paralysis therapist or sleep adolescent, some sleep professional guy.
Yes.
He wasn't a doctor though. He made that clear.
And the thing is, like, you know, I believe she did have an episode and he walked her through it. He brought her out of it.
That was the most hopeful part of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything was good. She was coming to terms with the Betnick lady, with her sleep paralysis. Obviously, she found this amazing man. Like things were just coming together, and that's like the ultimate drop. Where like, yeah, guess what? Sleep paralysis. Your husband just died, and why not Betnick lady?
Yeah, like he had an aneurysm, which whenever I hear about aneurysms, that's just terrifying. It's like, yeah, you just hold in a sneeze and like you have an aneurysm and then fucking drop. And I'm like, fuck. Like
I don't hold my
like
sneeze.
that. Yeah, like I just let it out. Now it's like, yo, I'm spitting all over everyone. Fuck y'all. Like, why'd you sneeze that way? I don't want to have an aneurysm.
They used to call me machine gun COVID. So.
Like, during COVID it was the worst. It was like, hey, holding your sneezes, put on your mask. Fuck you. I don't want an aneurysm. I don't want COVID. Nah. I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, basically, her husband Arthur, he has an aneurysm. He dies. She basically spirals from there, and you know that kind of leads her to, you know, look, I got to go back home. Like, because she even says when she's talking to her dad, he's like, "Where are you?" And she says, "I'm home." Like, and she meant, you know, the house, but he's thinking, oh, she's safe at home. All right, we'll go over to Steven's house and, you know, just hang out there. You know, you'll be safe.
Which she does.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
And I said, which she does go to Steven's house after she dies.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So she did. So, well, that's the thing though, too. Steven didn't tell the rest of the family that he and his wife were separated.
No.
So, you know,
she knew where he was. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Like dad says, go to Steven's, and Steven even calls his ex and says, hey, you know, my sister may come this way, and she's like, well, why? Yeah. And it didn't, you know, we'll get to that, you know, later on, you know, that whole thing, but she was very cold towards him. Like, I don't give a fuck about your sister. Fuck out of here. Like, why is she coming here? Like, and it's like, you're gonna regret those words, lady. Like, look, you should care. But
you know, they did touch on it too towards the end, right? Going back to like Nell going to Steven's house after death, when she was sadly like of right mind now, right? Because everything was leading up into her going back to the house. So it's almost like she was in this fog being led there. And then it took after death for her to clear up. And remember, they touched on it in the later episodes, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but where they said to Cheryl in her vision section, or when she was going through it, you know that at death is when you learn everything and your secrets are going to come out. And I think that's, you know, then that takes you back to that scene of, oh yeah, that's when she figured out, oh, Steven's here.
Steven's alone. He's here.
You know?
Yeah, true. So yeah, basically, you know, as she starts to spiral, you know, she's kind of desperate for closure. So like I said, she's talking to her dad and he's like, where are you? She's like, I'm at home. And what she meant was she was at Hill House. And this is where it gets kind of, it's heartbreaking and it's chilling at the same time. Because the series uses like distorted imagery and sound to kind of blur the lines between reality and haunting. So she's envisioning a reunion with her family. You know, the house appears warm and lived in and inviting, and everything's lovely. And I love the camera work here because you see from her perspective everything's beautiful, but then they kind of come back to it and it's dark, it's dusty, it's dead inside, and she's dancing around by herself. And you know, the forever home is kind of revealed, you know, as kind of that cruel trap, which, you know, Hill House is manipulating her grief. And it is just like, you know, she's up, you know, she even runs into her husband there, you know, she's dancing and it's just this beautiful fucking thing.
Perfect. It's ideal. Like,
yeah.
And everybody said the things to her that she wished they had said.
Exactly.
I'm
Yes.
sorry to pick up the phone. I should have picked it up. And I'm sorry I wasn't. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I'm not there for you more. It's like all the thing. Like the house was telling her all the things she wanted to hear.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, like her mother, I believe, gives her a necklace, if I remember correctly, and she puts the necklace on, which in the real time she was putting a noose around her neck.
Noose. Yeah.
And then her mother says, it's time to go. And then it's almost kind of like that blur starts to kind of clear up, because even in the fantasy, she starts to like say no, 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 no. And then, I believe she gets pushed. I can't fucking remember.
Yeah,
many times
they allude to a push.
Yeah. And then like the no, 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 like once she starts to fall, and then we see back to what we were talking about with her seeing it as a kid and screaming no, 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 as she was seeing herself as a little girl. It's just fucking
going through time. Yeah, going through time and seeing her whole life as one, like seeing the future, the past, and everything as one.
Yeah. And like the twist to all that kind of reframes the whole show.
Oh yeah.
It's like, after seeing that, it's like, what am I even watching now? I have to now look at this, because now you're looking at this idea that time isn't linear. You're looking at the story in such a different way now, and that trauma loop is endless, and it's fucking terrible.
It was like, I'm not sure if anyone else has done it before or whatever, but when you're haunting yourself, that's definitely a unique perspective. I can't think of something. I'm sure someone in the comments or whatever will be like, well, actually in 1987 there's a movie called sure,
of course,
go for it.
There's always one.
Yeah, but I can't think of a movie where like that reveal was so good where you're actually haunting yourself, and it's actually you are your own ghost. So that was fun. I just thought that was like it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
Like I was invested in the show, and I'm a ruiner of shows. Like I could be watching something and like especially horror movies. I think horror movies are always kind of, or not always. Oftentimes, oftentimes there's a good formula for a horror movie, and I can just read through it, and I'm like, oh babe, it's this, and then of course it is, and I ruin the movie because that's who I am. I like to ruin things.
Well, if it's practical, you get it though. So it's like, oh, that's easily solved.
Yeah, like and it's kind of like it's bad writing, which is why it's good writing, because it's what you want to see. And like with that moment, it was just like jaw drop for me. I was like, wow, you caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. I was not expecting her to be the bed knife lady. I was not expecting it to just the cinematography of that moment. Again, we're repeating ourselves a little bit, but it deserves repeating. It was such a great moment. That is
a good reveal.
Is a great reveal.
Yeah.
It was like a perfect conclusion to like the mid-season finale in a way. I know it wasn't because it's no, especially back then, Netflix is like, here's everything, watch it, binge it. But
it's still written that way though, perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta imagine they wrote it not for. And you know what? How about this? In the present time of binging, I think having a mid-season finale is even more important, because if you're watching everything in one sitting, like most people do nowadays, like the hard, like I'm gonna go through this whole season today, and having a midpoint that really brings you back and kind of like grips you again is so important, because you can burn yourself out like 5-6 episodes in.
Yeah. I struggle binging anything. 3 is my max. Because I start to check out. I don't care, because I need a break from it. So anyone that can sit through 10 episodes of something, 20 episodes of something, I mean, good for you. Won't be me. But this was, like you said, written perfectly as a good mid-season finale, being episode 5, being the end of the story arc for the kids and in their backstories. It all like kind of comes together, and I love it. Before we wrap this one up here, I want to go over some of the themes and takeaways here. for the Bent Neck Lady episode 5, Nell being the backstory, the death being inevitable, is a big theme here, and trauma.
Yeah.
Nell's arc is kind of a circle, and it shows how grief feels unending, or specifically for her. Depression is a big one. The Bent Neck Lady becomes a visual metaphor for depression, inescapable, suffocating, and self-destructive.
Oh.
And in time and trauma, the non-linear reveal kind of shows you how the past and the present collapse in grief. Like for Nell, like trauma was always waiting, and then isolation, and this is big after her husband dies.
Yeah.
She cries for help, and she was ignored or minimized by her siblings. And her story kind of critiques how families often fail to truly hear one another when they're in pain. And you see this, you hear, like, at least I hear it with like friends, my best friend, passed away, and prior to that, there are warnings, like we're, kind of pointing these things out, like, hey, we need to like look out for this dude. We need to, protect. And, family were the ones that were kind of like shrugging it off, because it's almost kind of like, been there, done that. And I feel like that's kind of the thing with Luke and Nell.
It's also like, they say the saying of the frog in the boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
That's how it is with family. You're slowly getting accustomed to this person. And even if you see there's red flags, you're not going to see them as quickly as somebody that's coming out from the outside and looking at it going, hey, this isn't normal, because it's your normal. You grew up with this. You're going to.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so hard for a lot of family or those strong types of relationships. It doesn't even have to be family. It could be friendships. It could be, spouses or partners. It's going to be harder for you to recognize when the problem has reached a limit, because it's always been a little problem, and it just you keep evolving and getting desensitized to it. Shit usually hits the fan by the time you realize, oh, I should have done something about that.
Yeah. I mean, we see that with Nell, like everyone, kind of like, oh shit, we should answer me. Cheryl mentions it, Dad mentions I should have been there. Steven mentions it, and it's like, and then it sucks because, after the fact, you could say that.
Yeah. But it was just Nell being Nell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To them, it's just like, this is what she always does. Because that was also mentioned, this is just what she does. And it's like, ugh. And like I said, and maybe it's just like I'm too empathetic. I don't look at things that way. I had a friend, I want to say like 2003, 2004 or something, where he was in a dark spot. And I was on the phone with him at like 4 a.m. and stuff. And everybody around was like, nah, it's fine. He's just crying. He's just crying for attention. I was like, I think he's crying for help.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. I get it. People can hear it all the time and think, oh, I had another friend a few years back. He would text me weird shit at 5 a.m. and I would respond. And it got to a point where it was like, all right, dude, what are we doing here? And then he got mad at me because I was like, what's going on? And he's alive and well, but he decided, hey, we're not going to be friends anymore. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'm here for you though if you need me, but that I'm not going to abandon anyone. And again with family, it's like this is what they're used to with her. It's just business as usual. But I think at some point you do have to still kind of think in the back of your head, maybe we should just at least keep an eye. So, I don't know, but again, maybe I just feel too much. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, you know what, man? Well, thank you. I'm gonna let my wife know that you said that. And the next time she says some shit like that, I'm gonna clip that sound just by itself and put it on my phone. It's like, you feel too much. We're like, oh yeah. It's just man will say, I don't think so. Like, yeah, back up off me, son. All right, so there's so much here for Haunting the Hill House. We're gonna break this bad boy up in 2. So we just did episodes 1 through 5, which is kind of like we mentioned the mid-season finale.
Yeah, perfect place to pause.
So we're gonna split it up here. But as always, to you all as the listeners, thank you. If y'all got any questions, concerns, criticisms, feel free to reach out. You can always find me at So You Like Horror on Instagram. All the words separated by underscores, I think. Or you can email me, so you like horror at gmail.com. If you want, be a guest, you got any suggestions for topics, whatever, questions, if you don't like something, let me know. Just reach out to me. I'm cool about it. I'm not gonna block you unless you're intentionally trying to troll and be a dick. Then that's when I block. It's 2026, baby. I'm not here for the bullshit. So don't try to play those games, because I'll block you quick. Go check my BJJ wiki page. People be coming over trying to get slick, trying to get cute. Yeah. I'm quick to block. But if like you got some constructive criticism, we can rock and roll, because I want to get better. So let me know. But otherwise, thank you, everybody. We're going to check out here, but we're going to come back with part 2 of this. That's going to be the next 5 episodes, episode 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, talking about the aftermath and the rest of the family. So thank you, everybody. We love you. And yeah, we here. Peace.
I think that's good for now.
The end.